RoughRaptors.
Rough. He's gaming like a boss, feeding his cats and birds. SWTOR all day. Yeah. Talking about RoughRaptors, y'all.
Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Raiding Along with RoughRaptors, now with 100% more cheesy intro that I forgot about. I was actually timely with this video, so who would have guessed about that? This time I'll be covering Inyr'kta, the 4th boss of Planebreaker Bastion, and arguably the hardest boss of all of Tier 2. For this fight you'll want 1 or 2 tanks. In my opinion 1 is easier, but 2 reduces the healing stress, but increases the DPS check at the same time. You're going to also want an Oracle or Bard, an Archon, and a Defiler as well as about 3 or 4 healers, 1 or 2 of which should be dedicated tank healers. Of your DPS, you should have about 2 to 3 AoE DPS, and the rest should be single target. Once again, I can't remember the names of all of the abilities, so I'll just refer to them in a way that's obviously them. I don't know how else to state that, just not the names themselves, since I have the memory of a goldfish, as I've stated hundreds of times. To start the fight, have the raid stack on the boss, which you'll see in a moment. Also note that this is a fairly long fight compared to what you're used to, aside from Volan, who's pretty long. Inyr'kta enrages at, I think, 10 minutes, which is recently up from 9. One of the main mechanics of this fight that can wipe the raid are earthen fissures, or just fissures, crystals, whatever the hell you want to call them. She will spawn 5 crystals in a pattern that's the same every time, and we label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and assign them accordingly. Designate either 5 warriors if you have them to pull them into the raid location, or if you don't have 5 warriors, use other classes with similar pull-ins or push-backs. This ability happens every 30 seconds, so be ready for it. What you'll want to do is AoE down all of the crystals on top of Inyr'kta once they've been pulled in or pushed back onto her. If a crystal stays alive for more than 20 seconds, which is the duration of the buff that it has, it will explode and deal massive AoE damage and root the raid for approximately 3 seconds. If 1 explodes, it's probably a wipe. If 2 explode, it's just an instant wipe, so don't let this happen. The main factor for the decision of using 1 or 2 tanks is the tank dot, which, surprise, the name of it I can't remember. It ticks heavily, and combined with auto attack damage from Inyr'kta and the adds that spawn, it can destroy a tank pretty much instantaneously at times. To make things worse, it occasionally can double or triple stack, meaning they are taking 2 times to 3 times as much damage as normal from it. So with 2 tanks this would never happen, but overall I still think 1 tank is easier because this doesn't happen as often as it used to. Basically for this, with 1 tank, just heal through it and set up a very strict cooldown rotation among your healers and a Defiler. If you're 2 tanking it, just swap after every application of the dot, which is, I believe, every 15 seconds. As the tank dot is counting down, it'll deal continuously more damage every tick, so you're going to definitely want at least, at minimum, a tank cooldown, or a self cooldown from the tank at the very last tick, which is, I believe, at 0 or 1 seconds. So I don't have any footage of this next mechanic being done, but throughout the fight she will pick a player that isn't the current tank at random and put a debuff on them that ticks damage over time. This player will gain a reactive ability and will want to run as fast as they can away from the raid into the outskirts of the room, and then once on the edge, click the reactive ability. This will drop a crystal cyclone thing that will snare anyone inside of it and deal moderate damage every second. If one of these is dropped in a bad spot, it could be a wipe later on in the fight. If the player dies before they can click the reactive, an even larger crystal will drop that has a radius of 2 times the size of a normal crystal. It's recommended to give that player a Puri shield while they're running away so they don't die. She will also cast an ability called Million Shards, which deals raid damage in stacks. For every stack of this you have, it's a little blue debuff you can see, the more damage you will take from it next time. This ability needs to be cleansed by the adds dying and standing in the green aura that they drop on the ground, which you'll see later on in the fight. At 80%, 55%, and 30%, she will cast Shard Swarm, where she goes underground and becomes immune. While underground, she will turn into a swirling vortex of earth shards that roams around the map. Anyone who gets hit by her will take slight damage and give her a stack that increases her outgoing damage as well as heal her. This is the Derp Check part of the fight due to the lasers that come with these phases, so I apologize if you have some derps. Every time she goes underground, two ads will spawn, one first at the right of the room and then the left. Each ad will periodically cast a shield on itself that needs to be DPS down in time and interrupted, or they will cast a raid-wide AoE knockback that deals heavy damage, which is essentially a raid wipe if this happens, especially in the later phases of the fight. If you hadn't noticed earlier, she has been casting million shards this entire time, which deals raid damage in stacks. For every stack of this you have, as I said earlier, the more damage you'll take from it next time. So this ability needs to be cleansed by these ads dying and then standing in the green aura that they drop on the ground. You will want to kill the ads in a strategic location in which your raid can be cleansed without risk, which means pretty much just don't kill them immediately during the laser phase, except for the last one, just so everyone can very easily get into the green aura. Okay, so back to the derp check part of the fight. At 80%, she will spawn laser walls that come straight towards your raid. For this phase, just simply position yourself so that you won't be hit by the laser either in the middle or the back of the room. There is a gap in between every laser with a crystal model on each side, so if for some reason the lasers are not visible, which will occasionally happen, just look for the crystals and run in between them. If you fail to run through the gap, though, and get hit by a laser, you'll be instantly killed, no matter of any cooldowns that you have on you. However, there's one caveat: you can teleport through them if you are very skilled and know what you're doing, so keep that in mind as well. At 55%, she will cast Shard Swarm again, and you will be faced with lasers coming at you from behind and from in front of you this time. They will always be in the order of behind you, behind you, and so on, but the position of the gap is always randomized. If you and your raid aren't comfortable with standing in the middle and dodging from both sides, then what you want to do here is run through the gap behind you, and then essentially chase that laser you just ran through to the next one, and so on. What this does is gives you a lot of extra time, so instead of idling in the middle trying to dodge two sets, you're only dodging one and then running towards the other one so you can already see it. Also, again with this, two ads will spawn, so have your tank pick them up and have your DPS stay on them and interrupt them when necessary, or you will wipe. Keep in mind as well that the lasers don't stop coming when Inyr'kta re-emerges. She will re-emerge and then a few more lasers will continue to come, so you'll have to deal with healing the tank, DPSing the boss, interrupting the ads, and dodging lasers. At 30%, she will go underground a final time, except this time you'll have to deal with lasers from all four directions. Two will spawn at a time from a random side and with a random gap placement. You'll want to try to position yourself to the safe spot, which is where both of the gaps intersect each other, meaning you only have to move once and then both gaps will pass over you, maybe simultaneously, maybe not. These lasers will continue either until your raid dies or she dies, so unlike the later phases, they will continue, and they are pretty relentless. She will again spawn two ads. Your priority here is to immediately kill them this time, pretty much wherever they are. Also, unlike other phases, she will continue to spawn fissures again every 30 seconds, except only 3 of them instead of 5. Right here, your number one priority aside from staying alive is to kill these fissures as quickly as possible. She will also still be debuffing people with the reactive ability that they need to use in order to drop the whirlwind crystal, so those people need to stay alive. These players need to be extremely careful in their placement, as the laser walls coming at them could be very deadly, or if they don't see any lasers at the time and run to an edge, they might spawn on top of the player, so they need to be even more careful if they actually don't see any lasers. And, well, with that out of the way, that's Inyr'kta, probably the hardest boss of all Tier 2. Hopefully this video helps the Brave Guild still continuing on progressing her instead of skipping her and Abominus to go straight for Tier 3. I'll probably do Abominus next with a very old, kind of outdated video. Mechanics aren't totally up to date as it's been changed and I don't actually have new footage. But Oh well, tier 3 will possibly be next. We'll see where everything leads me. As always, please leave any feedback in the comments, email them to me, private message them to me, whatever you prefer. Thanks for watching.